Welcome back to Frame Fatales, an all-women speedrunning podcast here on Games Done Quick. I am Nikasaur, here with Pidge01, who is going to show us a Super Mario RPG tech tutorial. So welcome back to the stream.
Hi everybody, I'm Pidge. I ran this 2 nights ago at RPG Limit Break. I don't know if you caught that or not, but it was like really fun. Because SMRPG is a super fun game that a lot of people have a lot of nostalgia for. However, you can probably see by my timer, there's no way I'm doing a speedrun in 45 minutes. I'm a little bit tired after doing the finale of that event, so I'm actually gonna show off kind of a tech tutorial. Because I hear from a lot of people who talk to me about speedrunning that they would love to pick up the game, but they feel intimidated by some of the tech. This isn't really unique to SMRPG. Speedrunning to many people kind of seems like the sort of thing where at first you think, oh, that's so cool, but I'd never be able to do something like that. Well, I'm here to show you tonight that you totally can. SMRPG is kind of like an interesting case. It's quite a difficult speedrun to learn at first, but once you nail the tricks, it's not too difficult to complete a run after some practice. So I'm going to show you how to do some of the more important tricks that speedrun incorporates. So if you like, feel free to watch this VOD back afterwards and boot up your Super Nintendo, your Wii Virtual Console, SNES Classic emulator, or whatever you like to play this on, and follow along if you like. I'm going to show you how to do 3 of the most major components of the speedrun. The first thing I'm going to introduce is max skip. And that is the first 15 minutes into the any % speedrun, you perform the first major glitch. This part's a little bit annoying to listen to, but just bear with me. What this glitch allows you to do is it lets you skip a boss fight in the Mushroom Kingdom. You might have seen it done before if you've seen an any % speedrun. I didn't do it at Limit Break because I ran the 100% category, but if you've ever watched an SMRPG speedrun, you've probably seen them doing this. This trick actually used to be much more difficult before, but a couple years ago, a speedrunner named Alanim found a way to do it that's much easier. So first, let's kind of show you what it looks like. Okay, so I made that look like super easy. I made that look totally free. But in reality, there's a whole bunch of little things to consider that make it work as smoothly as it does. So I'm gonna just kind of walk through that. The first thing I want to do is actually kind of look at this level inside a level editor so we get a better idea of like what's going on here. So I have a ROM editor open called Lazy Shell. This is a really cool program. It like kind of breaks down the game into all these really manageable chunks that we can kind of understand as ROM developers or even just anybody interested in the game. This is how the room is set up normally. You see like all the shy guys are here. The room is laid out like this. Max here, the Chancellor's there. It's pretty much what you see like as soon as you walk into the room. But the cutscenes that happen in this room are controlled by something called event tiles. I'm going to turn those on and suddenly, oh my gosh, there's this big block of a green wall and it looks like total nonsense. These green squares here actually mean that as soon as you step onto any of them, you start an event. An event can be really anything from like a cutscene to something that an NPC says to like even just setting something in your memory. It can be like almost anything in the game's logic. The event in this case is the cutscene that starts the mech fight. So what that looks like is if I walk onto any of those like invisible green squares, I start getting yelled at by all these shy guys and suddenly I can't do anything. I can't do the max skip. I can't move anywhere. I just have to fight this guy. So, we need a way to avoid stepping on any of those squares. They form kind of a wall, as you can see here. So, but really, like, they look like a wall, but these event tiles really only affect the ground. So if you're, like, jumping in midair and collide with any of these, it doesn't matter, you're not going to start an event. It's only if you walk onto one of them. So we can kind of use that to our advantage. For the most part, we can actually jump on this shy guy's head here to get some leverage and jump over these event tiles. But there is one problem with that. I'm going to show you what's called a solidity map. A solidity map kind of shows like everything that you can walk on, where all the boundaries of the game are, things you can collide with, so on and so forth. Once you get onto this shy guy's head here, there's this little block here that you kind of have to worry about. This one that I got highlighted in blue. In the game, this block is actually invisible. You totally can't see it, but you can definitely collide with it. So yeah, I just collided with that invisible block there and it wouldn't let me move. so we have to watch out for that. When you talk to the Chancellor back here, the game initiates another event that clears out the entire Mushroom Kingdom and lets you go to the next area, so that, like, effectively skips this boss entirely. In order to make that happen, I just jump on his head. I jump all the way past that block and over all those event tiles, and I talk to this guy, and that pretty much means the game thinks I beat the boss, and it thinks I have a star piece, and I don't have to fight him at all. That saves a ton of time because that boss fight sucks. If you saw my run the other night, this boss fight really, really sucks. It's totally RNG based, has all sort of unblockable attacks, Mario's super weak to fire, just a big old mess to deal with, so at any percent, don't deal with them. So that skip is pretty cool, right? There's a certain way to set this up that'll go a little bit more into detail, because I keep making it look a lot easier than it actually is, because I've been speedrunning this for like 3 years. To set it up, you want to go up into this corner right here. You just want to like get all the way up in that corner. Watch my input display here as I'm doing this. This is like hooked up to my controller right now, and you can actually see what I'm doing on my SNES controller. You want to like hold the D-pad right until you pass this little corner here. When you hold right, it kind of pushes you down along that wall until you pass this corner. So once you're here, you want to jump straight right on your D-pad until you're behind the Shy Guy. Once you're behind him, you don't have any risk of going through and starting the event. There's no event tile here. You can just like stand right here. You're not going to go anywhere. That little block that I showed you earlier right here, that's also preventing me from starting the cutscene accidentally. So, you know, it's kind of rude sometimes and kind of nice to have other times. The next thing you want to do is jump up on his head. This, in my opinion, is the hardest part of the trick because there's 3 different ways it can go wrong. You want to land on a specific part of his head, which is like right on here, like the right side of his head, and not fall off and not fall through him. I'm going to show it in slow motion, so I'm going to be holding right and Y to make sure I get enough horizontal distance. So I'm holding Y, I'm going to hold right, and I'm going to jump. So I landed on his head. Note that you don't actually have to worry about jumping over him, because the invisible block that I just showed you that was stopping me from running past him, that also stops you from jumping over his head when you're like trying to do this. See, watch how I'm holding right, but I'm not actually going anywhere. I'm like in midair. I'm not going right any further. Oh wait, actually that was a bad way to show it. Let me show it again. Okay, so here we go. So I'm in the air. I'm not moving any further right on these frames, even though I'm holding right. I'm just in the air, about to land on him. So that's kind of useful. You don't actually have to worry about jumping over him, which is really, really good. It makes this trick a whole lot easier than it looks. However, you also want to make sure that when you land on his head, you don't want to be holding right like at the moment you land, because then you'll fall right off of him. So let me show you what that looks like also. If I hold right for too long, and I just keep holding it when I land, oh no, I fell right off his head, and then I landed onto an event tile, and now I have to do this cutscene, and that's bad. We don't want that. So you want to be holding Y and right and jump, but you gotta make sure you release at least right before you land. So to show that in slow-mo again, I'm gonna release the D-pad right here before I land and just fall onto his head. This is the trickiest part of this entire tech, but you'll get the hang of it once you do enough testing. Like, just keep practicing it, you'll get it. It's not that bad. It's also, like, super important to make sure that you actually are holding Y, the run button, because if you don't, there's actually part of his head that starts a cutscene, and that kind of sucks. So that can go like this. Oh, that was not the right demo. One sec, let me do this. This is actually, like, kind of hard to do wrong once you've been doing it for so long. There, just like that. I didn't actually initiate that jump if you looked at my D-pad and my buttons and everything. That actually forced me off his head because I wasn't holding Y and I landed on the wrong spot. That kind of sucks to do, so make sure you're always holding Y when you jump onto his head. Another kind of important thing to know about this trick, this is like kind of minor, but I've seen people lose runs to this and then wonder what the heck happened. Unfortunately, like, his animation is super weird. There's a small handful of, like, 5 or 6 frames in this Shy Guy's animation during which you just inexplicably fall through his head and onto an event tile. We don't know why, but it happens. And those frames are all pretty close together, so you can avoid it by starting your jump at a certain point. But first I'll show you what that failure actually looks like. See, I'm above his head, I jumped at the right time, but oh my gosh, I just fell right through him altogether, even though I should have landed on his head. That can happen if you jump at a certain frame, and those frames unfortunately are not contiguous, so it's kind of hard to know when you got one and when you didn't. However, luckily, there is a way around it. If you look at the background here, see this mantle, like, with the candles on it? There's a certain point where you can look at his head and watch him fall down. That's kind of like a visual cue. I'm gonna frame advance just a little bit and let him fall down a bit. Do you see this black line right here on the mantle? Once his head falls below that point, you're safe to initiate your jump and you will not hit any of those frames, as long as you hit him when he's on the way down and when he's below this point. It's kind of like an easy visual cue that I found a few years ago that has definitely been, like, preventing people from having that glitch happen, because that glitch is stupid and nobody likes it. So, once he's at this point, you can do your jump, hold Y and right, release the D-pad at the right point, land on his head, and you're good. So, like, once you're actually on his head, you still have to jump over this little block here that I was talking about earlier, which is invisible. We can't actually see it, but we can definitely see what happens when we collide with it. So in order to, like, kind of avoid that, to get more leverage out of your jump, you can actually move down and you can, like, inch down and left just like a tiny little bit on his head to get more leverage out of your jump. And you also want to jump, like, when he's at the top of his jump. You don't have to move very far, but if you want to make sure that, like, you're absolutely safe, look at the shadows on the ground. This shadow is his, this shadow is mine. They look kind of like one and the same, but if I make them form, like, kind of a sideways 8, turned on, like, a 45-degree angle here, like this, that way I know I'm definitely in the clear. You don't have to move that far, but it's just kind of like a nice little safety measure. If you wait till he's at the peak of his jump, make sure you're holding Y, and then you want to jump up and to the right when he's at the peak of his jump, like this. I opened the menu by accident. Like that. Okay, let me try that again because that was kind of silly. Okay, I got a bad frame there. Now you see what happens when you do that. There we go, that's better. And then you talk to him, and then it's all over. So, just to recap, you want to get yourself up into this corner, walk past the corner, run, jump straight to the right, right up behind him, and you can't go any further. Wait until his head is below this line back here, and then hold Y right and jump, but make sure you release right just before you land. Move down a little bit, move down to the left just a little bit. Wait till he's all the way up in the air, hold run, and jump up right. Sounds kind of complicated. Once you do it enough times, it becomes like second nature. This is one of the hardest parts of the speedrun. If you've seen somebody do it and, like, just kind of always want to try it yourself, just go back and watch his VOD and give it a shot. It's actually, like, a lot easier than it looks after you get it a couple times. I also have a much longer tutorial video that goes, like, way into detail of all the different ways you can screw up the skip and how not to do them. So if you're, like, interested in that, head on over to smrpgspeedruns.com and the video's on there. It's pretty easy to find. Also, I apologize if my voice sounds like a little strange tonight. I am very sick after RPG Limit Break, but, you know, I'm going to pull through for the rest of this segment. Okay, so the next trick that I want to show you is called the skill swap. I'll reset, and this next trick called the skill swap is actually much easier to do than max skip. I mean, almost everything is easier to do than max skip. You saw that. It was complicated. It's complicated to learn, but not that hard to actually do. It's kind of difficult to set up the skill swap glitch, because you need to know quite a bit about which spells are learned by which character and at what level. So in Super Mario RPG, each character has 4 to 6 different spells that they learn and that nobody else learns. There's a total of 27 spells, and each is only learned by one character. So only Mario will learn Super Jump, or maybe it's 26 spells, I actually forget. I think it's 27 though. Only Mario will ever learn Super Jump, only Mallow will ever learn Thunderbolt, etc., etc. So you also need to know how much experience points you can get from an individual star chest because they all give you different amounts. So for example, like at the start of the game when you're in Bandit's Way running around hitting the dogs, you only get 1 EXP per hit there, but when you're in Barrel Volcano hitting the Magmites and the Dry Bones, they give you 11 per hit, and that's a lot. In the speedruns of this game, we do the swap glitch a couple of times. The first one that's used in every single category except low level is done right here in the sea, which is just past Seaside Town, like right after your first visit. As you can see, I'm like surrounded by starfish. There's an invincibility star in this chest right here that I'm standing under. First thing that I want to demonstrate, I'm going to open my menu and have a look at my characters. I'm going to scroll all the way down to Peach. She's level 9. She's got 600 EXP total. Our friend Mallow here is level 6 with 222. First thing that I'm just going to show off is what happens, just how the level up screen works. I'm just going to do the star and run around and get all these starfish and get some levels out of it. Oh, I missed that last one. I'm not used to playing on emulator, it's okay. That was 13 hits. So let's just give these characters some bonuses. At each level you can actually choose what you want them to specialize in for that level, so it's kind of cool. A neat little mechanic about the game. So Peach hits level 10, Mallow hits level 7. Nice and easy. So let's have a look at what their EXP looks like now. If I scroll down to Peach, she's got 704, where she had 600 before. So let's do some math. 704 minus 600 is 104. If I divide that by 13 hits, that means I hit 13 hits and they each gave me 80 XP. So that was a total of 104 experience from that entire star chest. So we know that for sure each of these little starfish is going to give us 8. Because there's 14 hits we can get there, we can get a total of 112. When I reset, I'm going to just reload my save state here and have another look at the menu. So Peach only needs 100 to get to the next level. If you give her 112 EXP, she will always hit level 10. It's actually very important that she hits level 10 here, because the glitch that you can perform with the EXP stars that lets characters learn another character's spells. So for example, because Peach hits level 10 during the star, we have the potential to teach her another character's spell, as long as that other character learns a spell at level 10. So for example, Mallow here. Mallow will always learn the spell called Shocker at level 10. That's just programmed into the game's code. That's not random, that's always set. Like Mario always gets Super Jump at level 6, Gino always gets Boost at level 8, Mallow always gets Shocker at level 10. So because he gets a spell at level 10, he's a candidate to donate a spell to Peach when she hits level 10. So in order to do this, what you actually have to do is swap the party positions of your characters during the EXP star, because when you get the star and start running around, the game locks into its memory who is there, and then at the end of it starts distributing the stats out instead of doing them one at a time like after a battle. So what you do here, I'm going to try to open the menu, so I'm going to hit the star, but look, I'm mashing X now and my menu's not opening. So, because my menu's not opening, that's kind of a problem. I can't get into my Switch menu to switch Mallow and Peach around. That's kind of bad. So how are we supposed to do this? Well, luckily I've got an answer for you. You can open the menu while you're jumping to open the chest. I'll show that in slow motion. So I jump up. I'm gonna jump and hit X on my way up. And you'll see my menu starts to open. At this point, the EXP star is considered active because we can hear the star theme is playing. But the menu button is not locked yet because you haven't opened the chest. So, the game considers the star to be running, so it's already committed to its memory where each character is, so that it can distribute EXP, level up stats, and level up spells accordingly at the end of the star. So if we mess with it by opening up the menu at a time we're not supposed to, it starts giving things to the wrong characters. So let's see this in action. Nice, I got all 14 that time. Okay, so Mario Nothing really to see here. Mario's party position cannot be swapped, so he can never be part of a skill swap. Bowser's fine, he didn't move. Geno's fine, he didn't move. Okay, so here's the first clue that something's wrong. The game is telling us that Peach is hitting level 7. Peach always joins the party at level 9, so there's no way she can be hitting level 7 right now. However, if you recall, Mallow was at level 6 before the star. And it also shows Mallow as hitting level 10, even though he was just at level 6. And it shows him learning the Shocker spell. But Mallow wasn't actually at level 9, Peach was. And I did switch their party positions. So let's open the menu and see what happened there. Oh, whoops, I need to swap her into my party to look at her spells. Okay. And there you have it, she learned a spell she's not supposed to learn. That's a Mallow spell. Peach cannot learn that normally unless you do that glitch. So to recap, literally all you have to do is jump up and press X while you're jumping before you open the chest. And then you're free to swap your characters around. You can do this any which way you want, but the important thing to do is to make sure that you're switching the character who you want to learn the spell with the character that normally learns that spell. If you want to try this one out on your own, it's actually the easiest skill swap to set up. Because Peach always joins your party in the Mushroom Kingdom at level 9 after you do the Marrymore cutscene. So if you get her in your party in the Mushroom Kingdom and then leave, talk to Mal's grandpa to unlock Star Hill, go all the way to Star Hill and get all the way through Star Hill without doing any battles, because remember, there's no boss battles on Star Hill, you can go directly to the sea, and Peach will always hit level 10 during the star. Because if I have a look at my status here, Peach is level 600, that's how much she starts with when she joins your party. In the save file, she hasn't actually done any battles, and she will always hit level 10 during the star, which means she can always learn Mallow's spell as long as you swap each other when you're under the chest. Give it a try if you want. It's actually quite easy to do, and maybe the next time you play this through casually, take it through Star Hill without doing any battles, do the skill swap, you'll see it's actually like incredibly easy to do. But it will only ever work if that character is hitting that level during that star. If Peach was still level 9 at the end of the star, she would not get Mallow's level 10 spell. So just to recap, open the menu as you jump in and hit the chest. Go to the switch menu. Swap the character who normally learns the spell, aka Mallow, with the character you want to give the spell to, aka Peach. Exit the menu, but make sure that Peach is actually going to hit level 10 during the star so that she can learn a level 10 spell. That's pretty much all there is to it. Okay, so the final part of this tutorial, this is the big one. This is the one that you always said I could never get the 100 jumps as a kid. This is the hardest part of the speedrun to learn. You can complete a speedrun without it, but you'll lose about 20 to 25 minutes minimum, so I highly recommend learning it if you want to learn the game regularly. I, of course, am talking about the super jump tech. It takes a lot of practice to get down consistently, but once you get it, it becomes second nature. If you watched RPG Limit Break, I was talking to my couch while I was doing it. You can get to that point. It's actually just takes some practice. So, the battle system in Super Mario RPG revolves around what are called action commands, or as they're known in the game, timed hits. A timed hit basically means when you perform a command, you press an additional command button at a certain point during your action and it does something extra. Most of the time, this means additional damage, sometimes with an additional animation. So I'll show you what an attack looks like for Mario on this chest here without a timed hit. 1 damage! Whoop-de-doo. Very strong. Now if I do a timed hit, it did an extra animation and a little bit more damage. In this speedrun save file, I just sold all my weapons and I'm kind of under-leveled, so you know, it's only going to do 2 damage versus 1 damage. Kind of a silly example, but you get the idea. Super Jump is the only one of these attacks that you can chain. If you perform a time hit perfectly, it always does another Super Jump. So this is what it looks like without pressing any buttons. But if you press a button sometime during your falling animation, it does too. You can do this over and over again until you hit 100. So, like I was saying earlier, if you played this game as a kid, you probably didn't get more than 13. That's the number that I hear the most from people. There's actually a specific reason for it being 13, and it's that the super jump frame window follows a constant rhythm, sort of. The super jump animation has a certain number of frames during which it will accept another input to chain another jump. For the first 13 jumps, the frame window that accepts another one is pretty forgiving, but it becomes progressively smaller. And when I say progressively smaller, I mean that the beginning of the frame window gets later and later, but the end of the frame window always stays the same, it always follows the same rhythm. So you can start off trying to hit it super early. Let me do that again, actually. I'm gonna show you this in slow-mo. So you can try to hit it like super early, like around here. I'm gonna hold Y and advance the frame. That's fine. Try to hit it early again here. It works a couple times. But eventually it doesn't work. It just makes you fall off because you missed the frame window. So the first couple times it's like, what the heck, that worked. Why didn't it work like the 7th time? It's because eventually it won't work. With each jump that you get, the frame window becomes later and later and later as to when it starts. So after the 13 jumps, after the first 13, it decreases all the way down to 3 frames, and it stays that way for the rest of the attack. 3 frames is tiny. That is 1/20th of a second. That's not that easy to do. It takes a lot of practice to be able to get it consistently. So, like I was saying, for the first jump, you can hit the button super early. For the next one, not so early. For the next one after that, even more not so early, and so on and so forth. However, if you hit it very close to Mario's landing, like right around here, it'll always work. No matter which jump it is. If you hit it very, very close to him landing, it will always work. The frames that you can actually consistently hit it with are these 3. This is 2 frames before he lands. This is 1 frame before he lands. And this is the first frame of his landing animation. When I say landing animation, quote unquote, I mean when he's actually at his lowest altitude possible of the jump attack. It's always here, here, and here. Those are the 3 frames that will always work for any part of super jump. But I mean, like, how are you supposed to tell when you're hitting a frame within 1/20th of a second? It really just takes practice. It just takes practice making sure that you're like as close to landing as possible. I specifically chose this enemy to do it on because, as you can see, like, he doesn't move. So I can show you briefly what that looks like on an actual Super Nintendo. I think 30 is a pretty good cutoff point to kind of demonstrate the point. So that went well past 13. And you know that went well past 13 because I was getting it in those last 3 frames. So like I was saying, this is pretty hard to nail because like I was saying, 3 frames is 1/20th of a second, and that's pretty small. And it can also be difficult because some bosses have standing animations, but the treasure chest, as you just saw, it does not have any kind of moving animation when it's standing still, and enemies that stand still are pretty easy to learn on. However, I'm not like some kind of god gamer. I'm just like some random girl from Canada. I've never like really been notable at video games before. I just practiced super jump for a couple hours and I got 100. Really, anyone can do it. Just focus. Try to tune your focus in as much as you can. Try to like really hit it like as close to landing as possible. Chances are you're probably doing it too early. In fact, if you're getting 13 jumps, you're doing it exactly 1 frame too early. So chances are the hitbox is like a little bit later than you think it is if you've been trying to do it and just can't get it. It just takes some practice and dedication like literally any other speedrun technique. If this is something that you want to do either because you want to speedrun the game or because you just want to do 100% completion but could never get that goddamn supersuit, I have a full tutorial video available on smrpgspeedruns.com that documents the complete progression of the frame window from 0 to 13 and onward. So that about wraps it up for me. I realized that I went a little bit under my estimate, but it turns out that SMRPG tech is actually not that hard to do. So like, even if this isn't the game that you want to speedrun, you'll actually find that many games have similar tutorials to what I showed today. If you head on over to speedrun.com, search for a game that you're interested in, and have a look at what kind of resources other runners have put together as learning materials, you'll really surprise yourself with what you can accomplish with just a little bit of practice. So that about does it for me for tonight. Those are just the 3 texts that I wanted to show. They're kind of like the 3 most important sticking points of the speedrun. And max skip and super jump especially are kind of the 2 roadblocks. But I just showed you how to do them. Just watch back this VOD and you'll be getting it in no time. So thank you so much for watching and enjoy the rest of Frame Fatales.
Yes, Pidge, thank you so much. I'm going to be watching this VOD like crazy. And I feel invincible and armed with knowledge. So stay tuned after a short break for more speedrun goodness.
Oh, someone in the chat wants to see 100 super jumps. Okay, well, since you asked.
Well, let's do it.
Yeah, sure, why not? Let's see if I can do it with the pressure of chat watching. I thought I was free from this 2 nights ago, but you know what? I'll do it. In fact, this is the enemy I got it on in my speedrun the other night. Okay, let's do it. There we go, that's 100 super jumps.
That was absolutely incredible.
Thank you. I'm actually, like, kind of happy I was able to do it, like, when I'm doped up on cold medicine. But, yeah, there you have it. That's 100 super jumps.
See, that's a success story. You're like, you're sick and on cold medicine and can still do it, and you just taught us how. That's amazing.
Oh, also, one final note for chat. If you were actually counting, you probably counted 101. There's actually a reason for that. The first, if you watched Tetra's segment earlier when she talked about arrays start at index 0, whereas humans tend to count from index 1. Super Mario RPG is one of those things that counts from index 0, so it actually counts from 0 to 100 in your super jumps. The first jump that you do, which it calls jump 0, actually does 8 times as much damage as all the succeeding super jumps. So if you just do the one, don't do any more super jumps, and go talk to the dog in Mousertown, he'll be like, wow, your record stands at 0, how do you do it? So, you know, first jump doesn't count. So when you're counting, always make sure you're not counting that first jump, because also another reason to not count it is because the frame window starts like as soon as you launch the attack. It's impossible to miss it, so don't count that one. Anyway, that's really it for me. Thank you very much for watching, everybody.
Thank you. Stay tuned after a short break. We'll be back soon.